uh, I am absolutely flabbergasted right now. I don't, like, look, I knew what I was going to talk about today. I'm like, hey, it's been a while since I talked about One Punch Man. Hey, I'll talk about the most recent chapters because a lot of really cool stuff went back. So I went back and reread like the last 6 chapters just to get like images to show you, for like visual aids. And look at this! Look at this! Like, this is incredible! This is amazing! Like, I don't know what really I'm going to talk about here because there's only so much I can put into words, like people have asked me, like, Matt, why don't you review like the newest One Punch Man chapters? Because look at Tatsumaki's face. How the hell am I supposed to properly convey? Just look at it, all right? Just go with it. Look at this artwork. Oh my god, right? Is Murata a freaking robot? Is he himself like a cyborg? Because sometimes I wonder how he could come up with so much, like, incredible chapter, and then, like, wow, this is crazy. Like, he's probably not going to come out with another chapter for, like, months, and then boom, and then, like, 2 weeks later, something else, even more, like, high level. Like, oh, God. Okay, so this is going to be a total fanboy thing right now. Like, that's what this is going to be. A lot of this stuff I already mentioned when I did the S-Class series, which I was kind of thinking, like, man, maybe I did that S-Class series a little bit too early. Maybe I should have waited a couple years to talk about that. I mean, I don't regret it, but at the same time, it's like there's a difference between talking about, like, the fight between Super Alloy Darkshine and Garo in the webcomic, and then Super Alloy Darkshine against Garo. Yeah, right? I mean, like, there's just, like, in the last, like, 10 chapters alone of One Punch Man, there's just been literally everything we love about shonen. Like, there's been punching, there's been lasers, there's been giant monsters and boobs and more punching and even more punching and meat, so much meat and martial arts and boobs and psychic boobs and, like, did I mention meat and boobs? Like, there's a little bit of tentacle hentai in there too, if we're being straight up, like when Orochi was like guamping Psychos herself just like once again, I was going back and grabbing all these images of Psychos, and I'm like, man, if you haven't, like, if you're just reading the chapters on like a weekly basis, which is what usually I do, I'll usually read each chapter twice. Like, I'll read it when it first comes out, and then maybe like a couple hours later, maybe the next day, I'll read it again. All right, but that's pretty much the most I do. But if you haven't, like, if you haven't read, like, if you haven't gone back and just read, like, just reread the last 10. Just reread the last 10, and it's just like a consistent flow, and holy crap, is it a freak. It's equivalent to like a roller coaster ride at like Six Flags or Disney World or whatever. Maybe not right now because of, everything going on, but it is a blast, man. All right. So, let's talk about, I guess, the changes from the webcomic to the Murata version of the manga. That's as good a place as any to start. Okay, so the whole inclusion of Monster King Orochi, all right? So that Orochi was, of course, not in the webcomic, okay? That was something that was, one made a basic, sketch of what Orochi was supposed to look like, and then Murata took it from there, right? So we're all really curious of, like, okay, what role does Orochi really play in this whole thing? Because in the webcomic, it's Psychos. That's the one that's like in control of everything. So what's going on with Orochi? So slowly we find out, like, okay, Orochi is like the strongest monster that Psychos created, or Goro, whatever name you want to use, and at the end of the day, though, still under the control of Psychos. And so we're like, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. And then Saitama shows up, and of course, just boom! Done, which makes perfect sense. I think we all figured that was going to happen, right? Like, I was honestly a little bit disappointed because I thought, all right, we were going to do something a little bit cooler with Monster King Orochi. At the end of the day, I mean, like, it's the end result is always going to be the same when it comes to Saitama, but I thought it was going to last a little longer. But no, instead, we get, like, the whole idea, like, okay, Monster King Orochi is, like, this parasitic creature that even after being destroyed and just decimated by Saitama, its body still exists all over the Association HQ, and then when Psychos is getting in trouble, she literally merges with it to create this. I'm like, okay, So once again, Saitama just boom, but he's been lost in a minecart with Flashy Flash. I love how they're extending the Flashy Flash Saitama adventures. It's really just a side thing. It's kind of the same thing like whenever King is just escorting the little kid outside of the HQ. You know, it's not like the main thing we're focusing on, but it reminds me a little bit of just like a wacky sitcom where Saitama is just hanging out with Flashy Flash, going on their minecart adventures with their like Mike Wachowski from Monsters Inc. You know, that's a fun little moment, right? So that was added, of course. So yeah, the whole fusion thing definitely something very warmly welcome there. Like it's like where it gets hard to try to like explain it is like, okay, fight with Tatsumaki and Psychos. In the webcomic, it's intense, right? But here, it's a matter of just combining the sexiness of these characters plus their psychic abilities, like when they really get intense, like when Tatsumaki, like she got the head veins popping and she's just like and you know, and then she just like slinches freaking Psychos's neck like that. And of course boobs. You know, when it gets to stuff like that, it's just like I have nothing to add here. I really can't really add to this. Like, how much of this video has just been me just like blabbering on like an idiot at this point? So let's talk about some other fights before we get back to the Tatsumaki thing, which is like a massive, you know, kaiju battle right now essentially outside in City Z. So, let's talk about Atomic Samurai's fight. But this is going back even further than, like, I think even than, like, 10 chapters. But when, Atomic Samurai first started fighting against Black Sperm, okay, in the webcomic, it was a complete defeat. Like, even there's really nothing that Atomic Samurai could have done. So on top of just the artwork and everything like that, we got a new, like, technique from Atomic Samurai. He's gotten, like, his, like, concentrated, like, focus slash, which was so intense, and it's like a slash that's so powerful, it just incinerates, atomizes the black sperms that attack him. But it's an incredibly, you know, stamina-consuming, high-octane attack. So I like that. He still got pretty much decimated by black sperm. He couldn't really do much of anything to him. I mentioned all that stuff in the Cadre video I did, but it was really cool that he got, like, that extra technique. And in the most recent chapter, when Tatsu was lifting everybody out of the base, you know, Atomic Samurai, he knows he's kind of outmatched, and he's like, well, I probably would have died if this would have continued because there's just so many of black sperm. There's like trillions of him. There's just no end. And that's another thing too. Like, he doesn't actually know the full limit. Like, I don't think black sperm ever directly told Atomic Samurai how many of hims are in him. So it's just like slashing a bottomless pit, basically. But even after all that was done and he was all beaten up and bloody and Tatsu, you know, formed the barrier and was lifting him out, he still has like that kind of smug attitude where he puts like the toothpick back in his mouth and he's just like, well, looks like our fight's over. Farewell, special blade testing monster. You know, did you just call me special? You know, I was like, haha, I'm out of here. You probably would have killed me, but, well, we're all good. I learned some new techniques from you, so I'm gonna bid you adieu, essentially. So I really like that from Atomic Samurai's fight. Zombie Man's fight with Homeless Emperor. I knew how that was gonna go just from, like, it's gory enough in the webcomic with just the more limited kind of art style that one brings to the table. But I'm telling you, like when it came to the actual battle in the manga, I'm like, all right, there is just gonna be, this is gonna turn into, I mean, it's kind of riding the cusp of a seinen series already with a lot of these battles, but like the Zombie Man Homeless Emperor fight, that is where it is going to go straight up seinen, where you're gonna like push the boundaries of what you are allowed to put, you know, and it did. His entire body just getting blown to pieces, and in one of the most recent chapters, when Tatsu was activating, like, because she's homing in on all the transponders and forming the barriers from them, you know, Zombie Man is literally, he's ripped to shreds, and he's on the ground, and Homeless Emperor thinks he's dead, and he's recovering very, very slowly, because his entire body has just been shredded, like, put through a freaking, like, you know, meat processor. His, you know, barrier forms, but not around him, and it just begins to, like, float away with just the transponder in it, and Zombie Man's sitting there, and he's just like, ah, damn it, if I would have known that, I would have just shoved the damn thing in my skull. you know, Tatsumaki was gonna create a barrier around the transponder, I would have taken that thing and just rammed it right in my head. So yeah. But the fight between, even before that, the fight with the vampire when he takes out those special like giant freaking hand cannons and he's firing shots at the freaking vampire, and the recoil from those pistols are so insane. They're like breaking his freaking elbow and his shoulder in the process, but then he just like heals up and then fires again. That makes perfect sense that he would like, because physically he's the weakest class S, you know, because his physical strength at the end of the day is really not much more than just a really well-trained like male that, you know, hits the gym. You know, it's nothing really more than that. But you figure how he fights is he can use weapons that would ordinarily like completely destroy your body, but it doesn't matter because he's freaking Zombie Man. He could take out like a super high caliber bazooka that like strap it to his chest and then like fire it off like boom, and then like in any other situation would just like pop your spine out the back end of you, but it doesn't matter because Zombie Man, he can regrow one in like 5 seconds. So yeah, that was a really cool one. The Child Emperor stuff, you know, it's whatever. It's a giant blob of water that he's fighting, so it's like, okay, but it was cool. The Phoenix Man fight, that happened a while back, but the Phoenix Man fight, alright? Like, I love Murata. I love him so damn much because he is a perfectionist with this shit. He is a professional, all right? He's drawn that fight the first time, and he's just like, you know what? I'm not feeling this. I don't think I made his robot cool enough. You know what? I'm gonna scrap that chapter and just start the fight all over again, but make it cooler. And nobody complained about that. Did you complain about that? I didn't think so. You need to leave if you were thinking that. Like, ah, man, he's restarting the fight over? What was the point? No, I didn't hear anybody complaining because everybody's pretty much perspective on that was like, okay, Murata, you want to go back and restart the fight and make it cooler? You have all of the liberties to do that. We are waiting on the edge of our seats. And I loved it. I love the redesign of the robot. I believe what Murata said about it was his major, like, complaint was like, you know what, I'm drawing this. I think there was some other stuff going on in his life at the same time that was going on, so it was just kind of broken up in the chapters. But I think another thing he brought up was like, you know, I just don't feel like the robot really works for Child Emperor. It looks like a mass-produced model. It looks like a generic Gundam or like a generic, you know, giant robot from some other anime. He wanted to make it more like this is Child Emperor, you know, he's like a little kid, so he likes like Super Sentai, you know, like Megazord shit, so he's gonna make his robot more like that, and he didn't feel like that was good enough. So he went back and redesigned the whole thing, redid the fight with Phoenix Man. And it was incredible. It was amazing. I probably said incredible and amazing no less than like 20 times in this video so far. But that's the best way to sum it up, okay? When he fires the laser cannon and it just blasts, like you see the moon in the distance and it just obliterates a giant hole in the association. Yeah. And then, you know, that's another thing about Murata that I love. It's just like, he can cut away from the action to something else that at first you might not think is super interesting, and he makes it super interesting. It's like, we're in the middle of the Monster Association, we're in the middle of all these S-Class fights, and then we cut back to the surface to see what they're doing, and I'm like, oh man, this is gonna suck. And then Nyan shows up, and then Drive Knight shows up, and then you get to see what, oh wait, I'm gonna see what Drive Knight can do. I'm like, ah! You know, even the executive dude, Second Genar, or whatever his name is from the Hero Association. I don't really know how to pronounce his name that well. But even that dude with, like, the eye laser. Like, they even gave him some funny moments and some interesting, like, you know, character development moments from him. There was that chapter where he gets his arm blown off by G5, and then Genos shows up, and, you know, Drive Knight's there, and Drive Knight goes back, and Genos rescues everybody and gets him to the extraction point. And there was a scene where he has to keep, like, throwing the stuff to Genos, and he kept, like, throwing it off, because, like, Genos had to keep using his extendy arm to grab it. And it's just like, well, I am missing an arm right now. But I love that dude. That dude is hardcore. Gets his hand blown off, gets to the extraction point, ties it, freaking just injects him with something. He's like, all right, give me the phone. All right, here's the deal. We need to get in there, and we need to beat the crap. So even that dude, I like the way that he was portrayed, all right? So, yeah. Who else? Okay. Garo and Darkshine. We got to talk about that. Absolutely. That's the one that exceeds the meat output for, like, a shonen chapter. Like, that one chapter alone, it's just incredible. Okay, so it first plays up with Garo being like like we didn't know what was up with him. We thought like after Orochi defeated him, like is Garo just gonna go straight up like monster, like he doesn't talk, he doesn't even really react, he just mindless creature from now on. But no, it turned out no, that he was just sleeping. He was like unconscious and whatever, and so freaking Super Alloy just boom knocks him right in the head, and he wakes up and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, was I fighting you in my sleep?" I get a little bit sluggish and a little bit intense with that. All right, let's go. And like uh-huh like and so bam, there was even a scene where he gets hit like Garo hits Super Alloy and knocks him through the walls, and I guess it was such friction that it literally reduces the walls around him to sand, because he like kicks freaking Darkshine, he falls through a bunch of walls, and whether it be because of like Garo's kick or just Super Alloy's body, like anything that thing touches just turns into like grains of sand and dust, you know. So he hits the ground there. We find out, and we find this out in the webcomic too, but we find out the whole thing about Super Alloy Darkshine's like personality and how he's like, well, I'm not actually looking for a worthy opponent that can really test my mettle to the point where I can maybe lose. I just want somebody that's really strong, but somebody I could still defeat without much difficulty, just for myself to like feel good, for that confidence. And we find out the whole thing about Super Alloy is that confidence that he lacked when he was a little kid, and then he started training, getting the guns, and then he became who he is now, and then, you know, proceeds to beat the crap out of, you know, all the monsters and everything. He's the S-class hero, but he's still deep inside. If it's a two-pronged thing, it's like a scale that goes like this. Like there's no middle ground here. It's either he's super confident, or something happens that crashes that confidence into a million pieces, and then he just goes back to being like that little like kid that can barely like even lift like a 2-kilogram barbell or whatever. So interesting character perspective there. Also, yeah, there was some discussions on whether or not that was going to be included, the whole thing with like Super Alloy Darkshine is not actually a black character, and like everybody, including me, when he was first introduced, you think, oh, he's a black character, and then you find out, no, he's like a bodybuilder, so he's white, and then or Japanese, I suppose, and then he grew up, and then he trained, and he lifted, and he, you know, did the deadlifts, and then the mega deadlifts, and then, you know, the mega ultra deadlifts, the uber deadlifts, whatever he did. And, you know, he got to the point where he, like, you know, I mean, I guess you could look at it in a similar way to Saitama, where he lost his hair, but you can also look at it, like, when you get, like, those big bodybuilders, they'll actually, like, shave all their body hair off anyway, you know, and they'll, like, you know, do all the spray tan stuff, and then that's, like, how bodybuilders do it, right? So that's the basis for Darkshine's character. But a lot of people were like, I wonder if that's going to be included in the manga, and it was, and not as many people, I don't think, read the webcomic as opposed to the manga. That was the situation. He was always like a bodybuilder kind of type, and I mentioned that all in the video I did about him, but yeah. So they added that extra scene though where he was being lifted out. I don't think that was in the webcomic, where he actually shouts down to Garo. It might have been in the webcomic, I'm not sure, but he shouts down to Garo, like, you know, the whole base is falling down on them. He's like, Garo, you gotta get out of there. Why did I say that? You know, and just like, Darkshine, bro. So he's really got to build up that confidence again to get back up to that point. It's a psychological thing. It's actually really interesting because he focused pretty much all of his time and energy on building up his muscles, and they are, without a question, you know, the most incomparable muscles out there, really. I mean, yeah, Saitama and everybody has you beat because he's Saitama, but in terms of like physically training your muscles, there's really no other hero that has Darkshine beat. The problem is his mental conditioning. He needs to go see a therapist, I think. He needs to, like, train his mind as much as he's trained his muscles, and it shows, like, the complementary nature of that. Like, you can be the toughest person in the world on the outside, but you'd be still very, very fragile on the inside. I think that's what Murata was trying to convey there. So, yeah, that was a cool thing there. So, let's see, who else? There's Fubuki and Bang and Bomb's little adventures. Just more boobs there, more psychic boobs there. But, yeah, nothing crazy there. You know, Genos did some stuff in the last chapter. He showed up, he met up with King and the kid, and he incinerated a bunch of, like, Orochi's, like, goo. But let's not beat around the bush here. Let's focus on what we're actually here to see, and that is, of course, the epic final battle between Tatsumaki and Psychos. I know it's not the final battle of the arc if you read the webcomic, but it's the final battle, okay? So Tatsumaki lifts the entire base just outside. There's the ocean in the distance, the sun is setting, and then Psychos merges with Orochi into this giant kaiju, and then that's where we're at right now, basically. By the way, Murata, if you want to take like a 3-month break vacation, once again, I don't think anybody would really be upset about it because of what you've been giving us, okay? Oh, man. I mean, I would like it to be earlier than that, but you know what I mean. Okay. So, I'm telling you what, like, all the stuff I've just fanboyed about for like the last 20 minutes or so. The animation in the second anime wasn't that great. So, look, can we just make this a movie? Like, maybe we can do, like, season 3 of One Punch Man. Sure, I think there's enough material in season for up until like the end of season 3 before we actually get into all of these chapters I was talking about. We have a lot of other chapters we need to cover first. But when it comes to like the Monster Association raid and all the fights I just explained, from the moment the S-Class step into like the association and they start moving their way down. So we get Child Emperor, Atomic Samurai's fights, Zombie Man's fight with the vampire, and then we get the cadre showing up, all that stuff. Can we just get a movie? Can we get like a 2-hour One Punch Man movie, get a lot of money thrown toward that, and have this be like the climax of said movie? Because I think that's the only way you could do this justice at all. Like, I mean, the animation in the second season was obviously a huge downgrade from season 1. Season 1 was Madhouse. What do you expect, right? But I'm like, all right, it wasn't all bad. They did all right, but they did okay. They did all right in a few places. There was a few places that were pretty bad, but there was a few that was like, all right, you broke even. But, I would be so sad if I saw something like this in like that really, mediocre season 2 animation style. Like, I mean, I was already upset enough with the Metal Bat fight. I thought that could have, with Garo, I thought that could have been handled way better. A lot of, like, the martial arts fight with Suru and everybody, I thought that would have been a lot cooler to see. I was kind of disappointed in a lot of the ways the animation handled a lot of that stuff. Yeah, like, downgrading these kind of scenes would be an insult to Murata. It would be a huge insult to One, because this deserves better. Okay, this deserves, like, the Madhouse treatment. This deserves, like, an actual feature-length movie climax moment. Like something big, okay? I don't know if that'll happen, or if they'll go along with it, or if it's presented to them, but we'll see. Oh, man, there was another big thing I really wanted to bring up. Oh, yeah, it reminds me a lot of, who out there has read, Gantz? So Gantz also, the art style of Gantz, it was a seinen series. It was kind of like a combination of, like, drawing but also CG. There was a lot of CG in the manga chapters. And the last arc of Gantz is like an end-out giant alien invasion of Earth. Okay, so you got giant robots fighting other giant robots. You got giant spaceships obliterating cities. You got fighter jet. It's the whole 9 yard. It's amazing. It's a really cool thing, right? But reading the chapters of Gantz, it's just like, man, this begs to be like a feature-length film. This begs to get like the top-level anime kind of treatment, And there was an anime of Gantz. Now, the anime of Gantz was years before this final arc with the alien invasion and everything, and the anime didn't last very much longer beyond like the third story arc of Gantz. It was one of those. But the animation of Gantz was like pathetic. Like, I really didn't like it. And it's a good thing, I guess, it ended when it did. So, like, things got pretty crazy early Gantz, but things got even crazier as the story progressed. Like, they were fighting dinosaurs and shit eventually. Like, and so the anime didn't get up that far, and I'm kind of glad they didn't with that kind of animation style. It probably wouldn't even been that nice to look at. But yeah, man, you like that, like Gantz getting like that kind of treatment, I would love, and that's probably not going to happen because Gantz has been ended for a long time now. Although there is a spin-off manga right now where they're in like Edo period Japan and they encounter the Gantz ball. I've been reading, so maybe read that. But yeah, man, this needs something big to have it be worthy. All right. Either the movie or either like Madhouse decides, all right, we're handling this. We don't usually do second seasons and stuff, but we need to handle this because otherwise it's just gonna look like crap. And we're still not done yet. We still have to see the Tatsumaki fight with this thing. We still have to see Monster Garo and Saitama. Yeah. So anyway, I had to get that out. My God, that felt so damn cathartic. Whew. If you have, I mean, I don't know. I guess you probably wouldn't be still watching this video. I was gonna say if you haven't read One Punch Man yet, or if you stopped reading One Punch Man a long time ago, start back up now. But I mean, if you're still watching this 26 minutes in, I don't know how many people that includes, but okay, if for whatever reason you're just watching me spaz out and you're thinking to yourself, man, you know what? I stopped reading One Punch Man right around the time Saitama beat Boros. I haven't really gotten into it since then. Start back up now because there's a massive reward waiting for you at the end. All right? And the ending where we're at right now is just really the beginning of this final battle. So, yeah. All right, I'm gonna get going. I feel like I need to go for like a 2-mile run, you know? Yeah, I'm not really quite up to 10 kilometers yet, but I'm working my way up, all right? So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Tekking signing out. Did I mention there's boobs? There is.